Hello there. So I'm going to show you how to do a stitch, and it's a really pretty intricate one, but very easy to do. And you can see what it looks like, and I called it sponge twist because it almost looks like you took a sponge and twisted it. Look at all this cool patterning that it has on it. Closer so you can see it. It looks quite different in the round. Very, very different. Here's what it looks like upside down. So it looks pretty cool that way too. There we go. Focus. And the back actually looks really nice too. So here's the back. That is a very cool looking stitch too. Get it closer so you can see it. This yarn is a little bit, it's a roving yarn, and it gets a little fatter and a little thinner, but it kind of adds a cool detail. And I'm going to make a headband out of it. I've been making a series of headbands, and some of my nicer stitches, they'll make great gifts, and they're faster and easier to do, and easier to get a project out to you faster too, so you can see what they look like. And I'm just doing a regular kind of a side that I like to do, it should look fine on the sides of the headband, and then this will be attached here. So but for you, this is just a stitch video. But if you don't want to look at my whole project and you just want to learn to use a stitch because you want to put a few rows in, or you just want to do something out of it, then it's easy for you to refer to this stitch video. So I've used, this is a custom one I got made. That's why you see that it's a 49 peg loom, because I wanted an odd peg loom for a certain things I do that are better in the round with an odd peg. But it's the same as a 48 peg for size, a 5/8 inch. So it's the same as the Purple Nifty Knitter loom, and Cindy Wood Loom makes lots of 5/8s. Knitting Board's large chunky loom set is this gauge too, 5/8. Now the yarn I'm using, it's 100% acrylic yarn, and I don't think I've used it yet in a video, and it's Mary Maxim Aspen yarn. It is 100% acrylic, 100 grams. You get 130 yards, 120 meters. So it's not a giant ball or anything. It feels really soft. Doesn't even really feel like 100% acrylic to me. I mean, it almost feels like it has wool in it. They did a really nice job on it, and it really holds your stitch really nice to show. Like you can see how it showed the stitch there. It shows it just as nice as a lot of yarns I have with some wool content. Also has beautiful colors. The color on this one is strange color. It's called Tinture. T-E-I-N-T-U-R-E. Probably pronouncing it really bad. Oh, I'm probably looking at a different language. Hot Springs. Well, now you know how to say Hot Springs in a different language. Color is Hot Springs. It's made in Turkey. So this is it, and it's I would call this a teal kind of blue, and it's got flecks of all kinds of colors in it. So I actually really like this yarn. I did some swatches to see how this stitch would work out, and I did this swatch in a King Cole Riot chunky yarn. I really like the King Cole Riot chunkies a lot. They're 30% wool, 70% acrylic, and it was really nice. It gave a really nice texture, just like this blue one did. So I almost did it with that yarn. I think I'm going to save this yarn for maybe something for a baby or something. That's what I was thinking. And I also did it in another yarn that had a wool content. Harder to see the pattern on the dark though. And then I did it in a round, and so just to show you how different it looks in the round, there's the stitch in the round. It looks completely different. It works, but you're going to get a look like this instead. So it looks completely different, but I thought I'd show you what it looks like. So you can use it in the round just fine, and you'll get a look like this. And it will be nice and tight. It also gives you a nice tight look. There, I won't stretch it out. You can see you get a nice tight fabric out of it. Back is like that. So that's what it looks like in the round. So I'm glad I could show you something in the round. So that's what the stitch looks like. I give you an idea what you'll get if you work with it. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. Now, it's one of my stitches where I started working with a certain stitch and I thought, whoa, this stitch has potential. What all can it do? And so I combined it with all kinds of different stitches to get all kinds of different looks. And I thought way back, the first stitch I ever did was cobblestones, probably like 8 months ago, but I was so busy with other things it took me this long to actually get cobblestone out there. So cobblestone is the first one out there because it's the first one I created, but I always meant to use the purl over stitch to do other stitches. I got Theresa Higby's consent to use her purl over with other stitches in my pattern so that I could present them in video, and she said yes, that's just fine. So I had my permission to use her stitch. So this is a combination of purl over with an easy stitch U-wrap, and I did a number of ways of combining this stitch with U-wrap to get all kinds of different stitches. So all those videos are all coming out all closely together, and I'm doing short projects so I can get them out to you, and you can look at which ones you like the best because they're all going to make you a nice tight little panel in an intricate looking pretty stitch. So you can use it for a purse, you can use it for anything you want a nice thick piece of work for. It'd be fine in a scarf, a blanket, anything that you want to make. Okay, so the purl over stitch, Theresa named it. It's not really a purl. You don't do it like you do a purl. You're doing it in the way you do a traditional knit for how you start it, but you don't knit anything off, making it a lot easier stitch. So I'm just going to get right into showing you the stitch. We'll get nice and close. There's a little button, lower right hand corner. It looks like a gear. You can slow it down if you need to see the stitch. So I'm just going to do a purl over. So if you were going to do a purl, you would have your yarn down here. But when you do a purl over, you have your yarn up here just like you're doing a knit, and you actually come down to scoop it up like you're doing a traditional knit. But we don't knit anything off. Instead, we just flip it over. Just flip it over the loop. Just like that. And snug it up. Now when you snug up this stitch, you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to be so tight you can't lift it off the top of the peg. So you're going to want to make sure that you can do that, and that's how snug you want it, so you don't have to fight with your yarn and hurt your wrists and things doing it. So there's the purl over. So we do the purl over first, then we take the working yarn, go behind and wrap in front to do a U-wrap on top of it, and then we knit that off, and that is the stitch. So to do the purl over stitch again, you scoop the working yarn or the loop that's on your peg from the bottom. I just got roving is the hardest to work with, so but I take this hook and then I scoop up the yarn, and then I just flip it over the peg and tighten just to the right tension, and then come over and do the U-wrap like that. Okay, do it again. That's all you do. You keep doing that stitch. So working yarn over, go under, from the bottom, scoop up the yarn that was on there, come up over the working yarn and scoop it through, and just flip it over and tighten it. And then from the front of the stitch, here's where your working yarn is, you go behind and in front and give it a U-wrap and knit it over. And that's it. That's what gives you this pattern. Pretty cool, hey? So because it's like this, you can do this stitch on anything. And like I say, it works fine in the round. It'll give you a nice tight stitch, but it does look different. So I did want to show you what it looks like. And the reason it looks so different is here we have the yarn going this way and then that way as we go. And when we're doing it in the round, all the stitches go exactly the same way. So the slant's all the same, so you don't get all these different angles. They lines up. All of these line up into more of a well, going all the same way stitch. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to show you just a couple more. From the bottom, scoop up the loop, scoop up your working yarn like that, and flip it over, and then come back around and knit it off. Now because this is a tighter stitch, it works great for hat brims. So you can do hat brims with it. The back is nice. You might decide you want to do something where you can show the back instead. I mean, it's actually quite a nice stitch too. Okay, now I'm not sure what I did, so I'm just going to take it off. And I had done the whole stitch because two things came off. And I'm going to scoop up the loop and put it back on. That's what I do whenever I'm unsure. It also tells me what direction I was going now. And so then I just redo it. And do this. And it actually gets quite fast when you're used to doing it. I can do it faster when I'm not using roving yarn, but I love the look of roving yarn. So to do it, you have to just be a little more careful with roving yarn. Oh. I'm just scooping it up and I'm just flipping it over like that with my yarn hook. You'll probably have to practice to get that good at it, but I'll slow it down again. And I'm just taking this loop, pulling it out and flipping it over, tightening it up. So it's just the right tightness. You can check it. And then knitting it over. And then when I get to the end peg, all I'm doing for my ends is knitting it over in a U-wrap, turning around, doing a U-wrap again, but loosely because I don't want those corners to be pulled. And then that's all I'm doing for my corners, my edges. It gives a nice tight edge, which is what I want, especially I'm pulling it around on my hair and whatever. I don't want a really loose look there, but you're welcome to slip stitches if that's what you'd like to do. And so when we go back, our next row, it's just exactly the same. We just go this way, go under, scoop up the working yarn, put it over the peg, and I just do it with the loom hook like that, come back around and knit it over. Okay, under the loop, over the working yarn, scoop up the working yarn and flip it over the peg and just tighten it up and come back around and do your U-wrap. So that is all there is to it. So I hope you enjoy this stitch, and I'll just give you another close-up of what it looks like. Oh, it's a very, very interesting fabric. Has a unique pattern to it. It looks the best in yarns that show your stitches, because you'll just lose the look of the pattern if you have a yarn that doesn't show stitches well. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a lot of fun with this stitch. Anywhere you wanted a nice tight stitch, there you go. So I'm just using bulky yarn on a big gauge, but it's a really nice tight stitch. Okay, and so until next time, we'll see you.